The bright studio lights glimmered over the polished set of the Jennifer Hudson Show, casting a warm glow over the enthusiastic audience. It was supposed to be a celebration of legacy, a conversation bridging generations of black excellence in Hollywood. The guest of honor, none other than Marla Gibbs, the 93-year-old television legend known for her sharp wit, unapologetic opinions, and groundbreaking roles on The Jeffersons and 227. Jennifer Hudson, glowing in a silky emerald dress, walked onto the stage to the sound of cheers and applause. Her voice, powerful even in casual greetings, filled the room. "Y'all, today we have a true icon in the building," she said, flashing her megawatt smile. "She paved the way for women like me to even stand on stages like this. Please welcome the one and only, Ms. Marla Gibbs." The audience erupted. Marla stepped onto the stage, dressed in a burgundy suit and pearls, moving slower than she used to but carrying the same fiery spirit that once lit up television screens across America. She waved, nodded to the crowd, and took her seat beside Jennifer. For a few minutes, everything seemed picture perfect. The two women exchanged compliments, reminisced about the struggles of early black actors, and even joked about the old days of live TV bloopers. Then, the conversation took an unexpected turn. Jennifer leaned forward and said brightly, "Now Ms. Gibbs, a lot of young actors today say they feel pressure to be perfect, to be polished all the time. What advice would you give to them?" Marla adjusted her pearl necklace, gave Jennifer a side eye, and chuckled softly. "First of all, baby, perfection is overrated," she said. "You can't fake soul. You can't filter truth. The problem is, and I say this with love, your generation is too focused on fame and not enough on craft." The audience laughed awkwardly. Jennifer smiled tightly. "Well, I think we just express it differently now," Jennifer replied. "Social media's just a tool." Marla interrupted. "A tool? Child, it's a distraction. Back in my day, we had to earn the spotlight. Now people just turn on a camera and call themselves stars." The crowd gasped. Jennifer blinked, caught off guard by the bluntness. "Well, I do think talent still matters." Marla leaned forward, her voice lowering with that unmistakable tone of authority. "Then why do I see people with millions of followers who can't carry a note, can't act, can't dance, and yet they're on every show in Hollywood?" The audience laughed again, half in shock, half in admiration of Marla's fearless honesty. But Jennifer's expression tightened. What was meant to be a respectful dialogue was turning into a generational confrontation, live on television. Jennifer forced a chuckle. "You're not talking about me, are you, Ms. Gibbs?" Marla smiled slyly. "You said it, baby. Not me." The studio went silent. For a moment, Jennifer's face hardened. Her charm slipped. "I have nothing but respect for you, Ms. Gibbs," she said carefully, "but I think maybe we just see the world differently. The entertainment industry has changed. People evolve." Marla crossed her arms. "Evolution's fine. But don't call it evolution when it's just lowering the bar." A few audience members gasped audibly. Jennifer tried to steer the interview back on track. "Well, speaking of evolution," she said, flipping her cue card, "let's talk about your new book." But Marla wasn't done. "You know, Jennifer," she interrupted again, "I watched you come up. You've got one of the greatest voices in the world. But I keep wondering, why you wasting it hosting talk shows instead of singing on stage?" The entire audience froze. Jennifer blinked, visibly stunned. For a second, she didn't know how to respond. Her hands fidgeted with the cue cards. The smile on her face faded. "Well," she said finally, her voice soft but firm, "I host because I want to give others a platform. That's part of who I am now." Marla shook her head. "You're a singer, baby. God gave you that gift. You should be filling stadiums, not interviewing reality stars." The room was now thick with tension. Even the cameramen looked uncertain about whether to keep rolling. The show's producer, watching from behind the curtain, whispered urgently into her headset. "Cut to commercial in 5, 4. But Jennifer raised her hand. "No, keep rolling." She turned back to Marla with a tight smile. "Ms. Gibbs, with all due respect, maybe the new generation just wants to do more than one thing. Maybe it's not about chasing fame. Maybe it's about expanding purpose." Marla didn't back down. "Purpose don't come from cameras, Jennifer. It comes from truth. And truth means staying connected to your roots. Don't let Hollywood water you down. The audience clapped nervously, unsure which side to support. Jennifer took a deep breath, struggling to keep her composure. "You know, I really admire your passion," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But sometimes, what looks like change isn't compromise, it's growth." Marla smirked. And sometimes it's just a fancy word for selling out." That was the final straw. Jennifer's jaw tightened, and she leaned forward, speaking in a low, measured tone. "I invited you here to celebrate your legacy, not to insult my path." Marla tilted her head. "If you see truth as insult, baby, that's on you." The crowd erupted, some cheering, some booing. The producer rushed onto the stage, whispering frantically into Jennifer's ear. But Jennifer stood up. "You know what? We're going to take a break," she said sharply. "We'll be right back." The cameras cut to commercial, but the microphones were still live. Marla muttered, "That girl got talent, but she too sensitive for this business." Jennifer spun around. "And you got opinions, but no filter." Security stepped closer, unsure if they should intervene. By the time the cameras came back on, Marla's chair was empty. Jennifer smiled tightly to the audience. "Sometimes, real conversations get a little heated," she said. "We wish Ms. Gibbs all the best." But backstage, the story was just beginning to unfold, and by the end of the day, headlines would explode across the internet. Marla Gibbs kicked off Jennifer Hudson's show after fiery exchange. The moment Marla Gibbs was escorted off the set, chaos erupted backstage. Assistants were whispering, producers were panicking, and Jennifer Hudson stood frozen, still gripping her cue cards. The tension in the air was electric, the kind that only comes when something unforgettable has just happened on live television. Jennifer exhaled shakily. "Is she okay?" she asked one of the staff members. The young assistant, wide-eyed, nodded. "She's fine, Ms. Hudson. Just a little upset. She said she's going to her car." Jennifer pressed her lips together, her heart pounding. The last thing she wanted was to disrespect a legend, especially one she had admired since childhood. But the way Marla had challenged her, on her own show, in front of millions, it had cut deep. Within minutes, social media was on fire. Clips from the exchange were circulating on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram under hashtags like hashtag Jennifer vs Marla, hashtag respect your elders, and hashtag talk show drama. Comment sections were split down the middle. Greater than, Marla Gibbs just said what we were all thinking. Hollywood is too fake these days. Jennifer handled herself with class. Some people just can't let go of the past. This wasn't a clash, this was history meeting the future. By the time Jennifer got to her dressing room, her phone was already buzzing nonstop. Messages from her publicist, friends, and even a few celebrity peers flooded her screen. "Girl, you okay?" texted Taraji P. Henson. "Don't let that get to you," wrote Viola Davis. Marla's old school tough, she tests people she respects. Jennifer sighed, tossing her phone on the vanity. "Tests people she respects," she muttered. "Well, I must have failed. .. Meanwhile, Marla Gibbs sat quietly in her limousine outside the studio, staring out the window. Her assistant, Gloria, broke the silence. "Ms. Gibbs, maybe you were a bit too hard on her." Marla turned slowly. "Too hard? Baby, the truth is hard. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to wake her up." Gloria frowned. "You know the internet's tearing this up, right? They're saying you embarrassed her." Marla sighed deeply. If telling a young woman to honor her gift is embarrassment, then maybe this world's upside down. Still, a flicker of regret passed through her eyes. She hadn't meant for it to end like that. Jennifer Hudson reminded her of herself, fierce, ambitious, talented, but still learning how to survive a world that could eat you alive. By evening, Entertainment Tonight, TMZ, and Variety had all picked up the story. Headlines screamed across the internet. Generational clash. Marla Gibbs walks off Jennifer Hudson show after heated debate. Jennifer Hudson in tears after live taping with TV icon. Was Marla Gibbs too harsh, or just honest? Jennifer's team urged her to release a statement. But she refused, at least, not yet. "Let me breathe," she said. "I don't want to sound defensive. I just need to understand what happened." That night, alone in her home studio, Jennifer rewatched the raw footage. She noticed something she hadn't seen before, the sadness behind Marla's sharp words. The tremble in her voice when she said, "Don't let Hollywood water you down." It wasn't cruelty. It was fear of watching another young black woman lose her authenticity to an industry that chewed up pioneers like Marla and spit them out. Jennifer sat back, thoughtful. She wasn't attacking me, she whispered. She was warning me. The next morning, Jennifer did something unexpected. Instead of hiding, she called a press conference. Cameras gathered in front of her, reporters ready to feed on controversy. But Jennifer walked out calm, radiant, and steady. "I want to clear the air about what happened yesterday," she began. Ms. Marla Gibbs is one of the greatest artists to ever grace television. Our exchange wasn't a fight, it was passion. It was two generations of black women who care deeply about the same thing, the power of art. She paused, smiling gently. I might not agree with everything she said, but I respect why she said it. She's earned the right to speak her truth, even if it stings. The reporters murmured, impressed by her grace. One asked, "Have you spoken to Ms. Gibbs since the show?" Jennifer shook her head. "Not yet, but I plan to." That afternoon, Jennifer showed up unannounced at Marla Gibbs's Los Angeles home. She was nervous, not as a celebrity, but as a woman seeking peace. Marla opened the door, surprised. "Well, look who it is," she said, her tone softer than before. "The talk show queen herself." Jennifer smiled faintly. "May I come in?" Marla nodded, stepping aside. They sat together on her couch, surrounded by photos of Marla's long career, awards, family portraits, and framed magazine covers. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Jennifer broke the silence. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not for defending myself, but for letting our conversation turn into something ugly. I've looked up to you my whole life." Marla's eyes softened. "And I'm sorry too, baby. My mouth runs ahead of my manners sometimes." They both laughed. Jennifer leaned forward. "You were right about one thing. I have been afraid of losing myself, afraid of not being enough. I thought doing everything would make me stronger. But maybe you reminded me that I need to remember why I started." Marla reached out and patted her hand. "And that's all I wanted, sweetheart. You got a gift straight from heaven. Don't let this business make you forget that." Jennifer smiled through tears. "Then come back on the show. Let's do it again, the right way." Marla raised an eyebrow. "You sure you want this old lady starting trouble again?" Jennifer grinned. "I wouldn't have it any other way." A week later, the Jennifer Hudson Show opened with thunderous applause as Jennifer walked on stage beside a beaming Marla Gibbs. The two women hugged tightly, and Jennifer looked into the camera. "Sometimes," she said, "the best conversations are the hardest ones. But that's how we grow, together." Marla nodded. "And don't forget," she added with a playful wink, "always speak your truth, but keep a little sugar on it." The crowd laughed and clapped as the two generations of stars shared smiles that spoke louder than any headline ever could. By the end of the week, the same internet that once tore them apart was celebrating them. Greater than, a powerful example of grace and respect. This is what growth looks like. Jennifer Hudson and Marla Gibbs, two queens, one lesson. And as the cameras faded to black, Marla whispered to Jennifer, "Now that's how you end a show." Jennifer laughed. "Yes, ma'am. And next time, you get the last word." Marla winked. "Honey, I always do."